In this presentation, we are going to learn about curriculum adaptation. So, we will understand what is curriculum adaptation and how we have to adapt a curriculum for children with intellectual disability, specifically at primary level. So, let's first understand what is curriculum adaptation. So, what is adaptation? Adaptation refers to adjusting assessment, material, curriculum, and classroom environment to accommodate according to the student's need so that he or she can participate in achieving the teaching learning goals. So, here adaptation refers to adaptation in everything, that is curriculum, instruction, material, assessment, classroom environment, everything. So, here we have to adapt to meet the need of children with disability in the classroom. Here in this context, children with intellectual disability. Here are few examples, that is use of audio tapes, electronic text in replacing the printed text, and having peer or classmate to assist with the class activities, reorganizing the seating arrangement of the child in order to avoid distraction, to promote attention, and the few children may distract the peer group sitting near to the child. So, in order to avoid all these things, adaptations can be made to create and stimulate interest in the child with intellectual disability in the general education classroom. And then we can go for alternatives to the assignment, such as instead of written assignment, we can make the child to narrate that incident or experience through orally, through drawing or through art, and extended time can be allotted to them to complete their assignment. Why? Because they will lag behind in completing the assignment along with their age and grade appropriate peers. And then computer software can be used like text to speech and speech to text capabilities can be used appropriately in the classroom based on the availability. Then multiple experience can be provided to the child to meet the different learning style of the student in the classroom. That is, one may be a visual learner, the other may be auditory learner, one may be kinesthetic learner. So, the teaching learning process should address to all the style of learning in the classroom so that the child can adapt accordingly style and the interest of his own. So, accordingly, textbook, hands-on experience and field experience, everything has to be planned by the teacher. So, in a short, adaptation is adapting the system, that is instructional as well as the physical access to the child to accommodate him to be part of an inclusive education classroom. That is what does adaptation mean. Here we will discuss about the classroom strategies which support inclusive education. So the first one is multi-level instruction. Children with intellectual disability, because of their limitation in IQ and processing ability, cannot learn from single instruction. So, an instruction has to be given repeatedly to make the child to grasp a concept, and this is not possible for a teacher in the general education classroom. So, how the teacher will plan for multi-level instruction? The teacher can allot a peer to assist the child to instruct, followed by the instruction given by the teacher, or else family support can be availed in order to make the child understand the concept repeatedly. So, multi-level instruction has to be practiced. Then, cooperative learning. What is cooperative learning? Cooperative learning is making the child to learn in a group. How will that group or who may be the members in the group. Here in that group, maybe the group comprises of 4 to 5 members. One may be a studious person in the class, the other two may be a moderate learner, and the other two may be child who may be with diverse needs. So while while learning together, they will have this multi-level instruction as well. They will learn from their age appropriate peer, which will be a great reinforcement to them. Then comes individualized learning modules. Teacher can design individual learning modules according to the need of the child and can be presented for his effective learning in the classroom. Then activity-based learning can be promoted to enable the child to participate effectively in the learning. Then, as we have discussed earlier, peer tutoring will facilitate the child to learn effectively in the classroom. So these are the strategies which will support the child to involve and accommodate in the inclusive education classroom. And here are the lower level objectives which are set for student with intellectual disability in the same curriculum unit. So in a lesson about responsibilities of the president, the child can be asked to identify the president's picture and tell his name, while other children will be learning more about the responsibilities of the president. And in a lesson focusing on telling time to quarter hour, digital clock can be used to make the child to learn about time instead of using the regular clock. And during a lesson on budgeting, he can be asked to match coins, rupees, etc. because the child will not be conversed with budgeting. Rather, it will be beneficial for him to learn about the rupees and the coins, its values, etc. And during a history lesson on Stone Age people, he can be made to match key concept to visuals to understand about the shelter, food and activities of Stone Age people, while the other students and or his other peer group will be learning much more about the Stone Age people. Here the important and the key thing is he should learn about the basics of that curriculum and the lesson. So that facility will be made available to a student with intellectual disability. During a math activity worksheet, say for example, multiple digit addition, manipulatives can be made use while others will be working on their own. And during a science lesson on whale identification, the child with intellectual disability can be made to sort pictures of whales from the other animals instead of learning the details about the whale and its living and the other description about it. Then during a science activity on the identification of rock, the child can be made to sort the rock based on the color instead of increasing the complexity of the lesson. And while focusing upon the lower level objectives, here comes the need for teaching alternate skills. Why? Because the child along with academics has to learn activities for the daily living. So it becomes essential for the teacher to focus upon the alternate skills for a student with intellectual disability in his or her classroom. So during a science activity, a student with intellectual disability can be made to interact appropriately with others using other communicative methods, and he can be trained to use mobility skills and use one-to-one correspondence to count the materials and associate between the materials and the numbers. And during an Indian history discussion, a student with intellectual disability cannot participate in the discussion at higher order end. So he can be made to maintain an upright position and answer questions using communication device instead of participating in the discussion. And during a reading activity, he can be made to use adapted book to match and place pictures on the page. So here one-to-one correspondences maintained and developed. During the science class on recycling, the child is made to understand the concept by picking up and placing recycled items in the appropriate bin which is kept in the classroom. And then during the social science group activity, to develop presentation on the topic, he can be engaged to walk using walker, operate computer to change slides using the switch. This does alternate skills to enable him to skills. Then during reading, text can be simplified rather than making him to read the entire content of the lesson. Then to assist the child in reading, representational objects which are similar to the text can be presented. Why? Because concrete material learning will enhance their reading and retention. Then photos and visuals can be used to represent the text. Then technology can be used, like specifically in technology, slant boards, page turners and digital books can be used. Reading materials can be taped and it can be made available to the child, and the child can listen to it whenever the child is free or get interest to learn. Then embedded preferences and choices can be offered. Then computer program can be used as part of the technology. Then a response, that is the response which we expect from the child with intellectual disability can be adapted. So like instead of only expecting written responses, we can expect oral response or drawing or art response. Then we can encourage the peer to read for him. Then interactive strategies to support participation, that is visual, turning the pages and recording the response of the child can be made in the classroom. Then objects can be connected to the content material to support the reading experience, that is making the child to keep finger on the line and making him to move so that it enables him for the reading without any mistake. Then mount symbols, pictures or tactile objects that represent concepts can be taught through textbook. So reading can be made simplified for a child with intellectual disability so that he develops interest towards reading. When it comes to writing, alternatives to pencil can be used, such as stamps, stickers, magnetic letters, marker, tape recorder for dictation, keyboard, on-screen keyboard, touch screen selection, and arranging the pictures or cards instead of writing. This will develop interest among the child and will address to the limitations which he faces in writing. And objects and manipulatives connected to the content material to describe an event, give information, and non-slip matting can be used to enhance their writing ability. Then manipulatives can be used to improve the writing skill of the children with intellectual disability in the classroom. That is, words or numbers can be placed to help them to identify and sequence the things in order. Why? Because while writing the essay or while writing long answers, these children will definitely find it difficult to sequence the event because of their minimum retention level. So this can be assisted by providing the manipulatives. Then they can be made to collect the items in bag or basket to represent the collection of information, and digital picture of it can be taken to aid them. Then objects can be paired with words, symbol or numbers. Then peer scribe can be used to record the event as per the sequence they do. Then two choices can be given while writing, and the child can be made to identify the right choice for the question which is arised. And then they can be asked to mark answer, select answer from the cards and point to the answer. And augmentative and assistive devices can also be used to enhance their writing level. And here are few examples of curriculum adaptation with respect to the language aspect. long lessons or stories can be divided into smaller parts with a meaningful beginning and ending. So in order to reduce the complexity, it is presented in simple way. Then poems can be taught through action and repetition so that it will relate the child with the respective word or sentence. Then students with autism may need more real-time experiences and activities in order to learn something. So to make them understand the concept of turning, they can be made to turn the knob of a door or tap or fan regulator, gas stove knob, etc. to make them associate turning with the real-time experience. And new words can be taught through visual dictionary, as many of children with intellectual disability or visual learners. Then while using picture cards, we have to see that we have to limit the usage of colors. We should not confuse them. So limit only up to 2 colors, or else use only primary colors so that they will be able to differentiate the minor differences. Coming to mathematics, in order to teach place value, use scale with unit place having 9 blocks in one color and another color at 10 place, so that the child will be able to identify after this color 1 unit ends and next come 10th unit. So this will enable the child to understand and retain the concept. And papers can be used for teaching fraction. See the picture. This girl is holding full paper, isn't it? Which means whole. See the next picture. The girl is folding the paper into half, which means one when folded into like either vertically or horizontally, it becomes half of it. So, but like through these activities, we can make the child to understand the mathematical concepts. Similarly, measurements like tall, short, volume like full, empty, weight representing heavy, light, and shapes like circle, triangle can be made can be made available to the student for their better understanding through concrete things, objects, and flashcards, so that they can relate the concept with the real or the 3D presentation. Intellectual disability students can be given clay to make different shapes so that they will retain that concept for a longer period of time in their memory. Moreover, instead of giving all shapes together, give one shape at a time, as we used colors previously. So every instruction should be simplified and given and presented with the concrete and material experiences so that the child will find easy to learn. Coming to EVS, group activities will facilitate active participation and experiential learning of the child. Similarly, activity-based learning will facilitate their understanding. For example, teaching them with the materials around will help them to understand about the concept of different type of houses. Concrete house, like a hut or such other things, can be made uh, uh, easy for the child to learn through concrete experiences. Then for teaching changing of times, the entire content can be divided into parts concept wise. Then the real objects can be used for the child to understand the concept. The concept of rain can be demonstrated by playing recorded sound effects of thunder and rainfall with associated animal and insect sounds. So it will be very easy for the child to associate it with the real-time experience. Then picture and flashcard can be used to introduce the objects that are not available, like say for example non-regional plants or animals. Then factors which determine the success of inclusive classroom includes family school partnership. Very important, is it not? What is happening in the school? Family members has to know and understand why we are doing that. Only if they reinforce that in the home, then holistic development of a child with intellectual disability will happen. So Naturally, family-school partnership is very important, which determines the success of an inclusive classroom. Then, collaboration between general and special educators. Very important, is it not? Because a general education classroom is handled by a general education teacher. The special educator helps or supports the general educator from outside the classroom. So a very good collaboration should exist between both of them. A special educator should understand the need of the child and guide properly the general educator to handle the child in the classroom. Then well constructed plan to identify specific accommodation modification for each student should be made available. Then coordinated planning and communication should exist between general and the special needs staff. Integrated service delivery focusing upon the holistic development of child with intellectual disability should be focused upon, because he may need therapeutic services like physiotherapy or occupational therapy or speech therapy. That should also find place in the general education curriculum. Then ongoing training and staff development at both the ends, like general and special educator. General education teacher will learn more about the needs and how to identify the need of a student with intellectual disability, whereas the special education teacher will become updated with the latest happenings in the field of special education, like technology or whatsoever it may be. Then how to make inclusion work? It is not the readiness of the student, it is not finding the right program for the student, it is not providing services which are appropriate for the child. It is all about support. Supporting to get ready, supporting to identify a program, supporting to provide right service will make the child to feel one among all in an inclusive setup. Special children are generally sensitive. They feel and understand that they are different from that of others. We have to attend to it by accepting their limitation. That will help in effective inclusion. Now, let us understand about how to adapt a curriculum for a child with intellectual disability in a inclusive classroom. Maybe understanding to you how to adapt a curriculum for a child with intellectual disability in the inclusive education. Now, let's take science subject. This is a grade 3 level science topic upon pond study. So here in pond study, we are going to discuss about how tadpoles are turning to frogs. So this is lesson 6. So the lesson goal here is to introduce children how the tadpole turns to frog. That is life cycle of a frog. So what is the central issue of the lesson? What happens when tadpole turn into frog? This is what the children in the classroom are intended to learn. Whether they are disabled or non-disabled, the central problem to be learnt in this classroom is this. So the materials required for this is fish tank with tadpoles collected last week, life cycle of frog chart and relevant books. And the procedure which is followed in the classroom is the teacher introduces the lesson topic. Children are asked the question, what happens when tadpoles turn into frogs? So they are asked to investigate this problem using internet, books, their own observation from the fish tank which is kept in the classroom, and discussion with one another in the small group. So resulting from their research, the children are asked to draw correct sequence of what happens to tadpole when they become frog. So tadpole, what is the next stage? What is the next stage? Which stage the tadpole turned to frog? So this is what is expected from the children. So they have to learn how the tadpole goes to frog and the life cycle of the frog. So the teacher motivates them to learn on their own by providing all the materials which are required for that. And the homework task for this lesson is none. Why? Because they learn the concept practically. And here, diverse learner in this group is Nitya. So objectives for this lesson to Nitya is by the end of the term 3, Nitya will be able to visually track an item as large as a coin against the white background for a period of 45 seconds. So inclusive materials and procedures which are meant for Nitya are when her group is observing tadpoles at the tank, one will be removed to the smaller fish bowl which is set against a piece of white paper, and Nitya will be encouraged to track the movements of tadpole with her eyes. Other students will also examine this individual tadpole to see if any change has taken place. So alternative assessment used here is visual tracking, which is timed and documented. See, the same procedure, same central problem, same objective, but with little adaptation, which helps Nitya to learn along with her peer group. When children learn from internet and book and group discussion, Nitya simply tracks the movement of a tadpole, and that too timed. If she tracks it for even 45 seconds, then we can understand that she has learned something. So while the other students in the classroom are assessed using um, like sequencing the life cycle of the frog or making them to write an essay or such other things. Here, Nitya is made to track the tadpole for period of 45 minutes. That is documented. So here, this alternative assessment helps to assess Nitya in the classroom along with her age and grade appropriate peers. So here what the teacher does: introduces the topic, divides class into group, sets task, engages with each group and provides input as required. So she also facilitates group sharing, leads concluding discussion on frogs using chart. So here the teacher engages each and every child in her class, like she doesn't leave any child to sit idle, including Nitya, the diverse learner. She took care of each and every child participating in the activity. So, in such a way, she designs the classroom atmosphere and the procedure to teach. And how is the assessment made? So, resulting from the research, the children are asked to draw what happens to tadpoles in the current sequence as they become frogs, where Nitya will be visual tracking the tadpole. This is what is expected from a teacher in an inclusive classroom to adapt for a diverse learner in the classroom.